this thing about who you are and what you should be doing and who people think you are is all sort of crazy. In other words, if you're an artist, you're like a lot of things. And you're not gonna, if you continue to do one thing forever is boring. And the guys, my thing was to keep trying new things in animations. I never thought there'd be another thing past this thing. In other words, in my day, only Disney was doing features, and if anyone else did one, it was like one feature in a man's lifetime. So I wasn't going to do Fritz the Cat 2 because it was just a repeat. So I went to Heavy Traffic, and then I went to Coonskin. What I'm saying is this thing about Wizards is, I'm a cartoonist, I'm an artist, and I love fantasy. I mean, Wizards was inspired by Tolkien. Tolkien's some of the finest books I've ever read in my life, as far as fantasy goes. And, I don't think there's one thing a man should be, only, you know, so that's answering your question. Disney hired a lot of good guys. You know, in the animation business, one of the director's jobs is to hire the best people he can find. He doesn't do the whole film himself. So I did this whole film myself. Not Lord of the Rings, before.
I mentioned watching it this time.
I'm in the pizza parlor.
I also want to mention the music, of course, in Lord of the Rings is just fantastic. I just thought anything you want to say about the composer?
Well, I haven't seen the film since I made it. I don't like to look at my movies before I make it. I know it's hard to believe, but I don't see it. Because I'm only looking at the mistakes, and I wish I had done that over. So it's very hard to look at a film for a director. He sees the flaws, especially in my low-budget films. The music score, which I heard for the first time since I made it up there, I was sitting upstairs, sounds very good, and the mix sounds very good. The pictures seem to have dragged a little for me upstairs. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't know what that's all about. But I don't remember much of my films. It's sort of like fighting. If I can't see how bad they are, then I think they're good, so I can get away from it. I can come and talk to you people, because I don't know how bad the movies really are. You know? It's sort of a way of hiding from the truth. I'm dead serious. My whole life I spent that way. I've never looked in mirrors. I hate myself. This is great. This film, Last Days of Coney Island, I've hired 5 jazz musicians. No, I hired a jazz composer, and he lives in Harlem with 5 guys. We're going to have an old 5-man jazz track to Last Days, because jazz is beautiful with animation. So I love jazz and animation. I love rock and roll and animation. You know, I love all kinds of music. I love animation. I love Chet Baker. I was going to do Chet. Brad Pitt wanted me to do Chet Baker's life with him. So I went to Oklahoma after I did Cool World with him. So I went to Oklahoma to talk to his wife and his mother about the rights to the film. You know, but then I don't know what happened. They couldn't, believe it or not, they could not get the music rights to Chet's music. All his music rights were gone to other people, so you couldn't do the movie.
Ralph, I think you're a pioneer of jazz animation, meaning that it's coming from your soul. You know, you came of age and you were part of the system of creating cartoons for television and this and that. When did it occur to you that you can do cartoons for yourself? Because people weren't doing that back then.
Oh, just by hating Disney. I mean, all these great. The World War II was going on, and he's doing Song of the South. You know, people are dying right and left, and he's doing Hey Caballeros. You know, it's ridiculous. It came. You know, when did it come to me? It came to me because Bobby Dylan started to sing, and the civil rights movement started, and the whole country was changing. Vietnam was destroying itself. It came to me to be your own person when the whole world was changing. You know, and you just didn't want to be a rubber stamp for commercialism, which is, I don't know, I grew up in a different time. We were different then. You know, money wasn't the issue, art was the issue. It was a different time in America. You know, when those abstract painters, when they started to paint, they didn't care about bread. I mean, we all cared about bread, money's great. But the point they were doing it because they loved it, the jazz musicians. You go anywhere in New York for $5, you sit at a bar, and you listen to Miles Davis in the club. and all these foreign films were coming out. La Strada, what a movie was that? That told me a lot. Brilliant movie. It's a different time.
You're the guy who pioneered this, because you were doing personal animated features for grown-ups, and nobody else would, nobody could. We're living in an era now where everybody can work on their computer and maybe make an animated film, but you were doing it at a time when no one could do it. That's why you are a pioneer, and again, thank you, Ralph.
I lied and I cheated,
That's anything.
I sold them scripts and rewrote them, and they weren't looking. I mean, it was hard. But that's okay. You got to take your shot when you get it. I mean, these guys, they didn't care about animation. They didn't care what I was doing. They didn't care, so I didn't care what they thought.
Okay.
Of course, you got to wait in line. So if you want to get promoted, it doesn't matter. There's a guy ahead of you. Whether he's good or bad, he's going to get promoted. So I'm sitting there, I want to animate. I'm very young. I want to animate, I want to animate, I want to animate. I can't. There's a line of guys, bigger than whatever, and, there's a line of guys, And so I figured one day I got very depressed. And so I picked up my desk. The animation department was downstairs. My desk was upstairs painting stuff. So I picked up my desk and I carried it downstairs to the animation department. And there was a space by the bathroom. But I mentioned that nobody was using, so I pushed my desk in there. And I sat down, and no one said anything, they didn't care, I was it. And then I went to a director, Connie Brzezinski, a great old guy. He was top director at Tarrytoons. He had started with them, and he was a boxer, he was a hobo, he was a circus clown before he started to animate the kind of people the old cartoonists were. And he said, "What are you doing down here?" I said, "I'm animating." Give me a scene. They gave you each animating good scenes. They gave me a scene, they gave me another scene. I just go back and I start to animate. Right? About 2 weeks later, I'm animating. So 2 weeks later, the production manager comes by and says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm animating." He said, "What do you mean you're animating?" I said, "I'm animating." Yes, Connie. Connie's the director. So he goes into Connie, he says, "Connie, what's he doing?" Connie says, "He's animating." It's a true story. So you guys, they're trying to get me fired. I'm animating. If you're animating, you don't get fired. So now what happens is all the guys who heard I was animating, who were ahead of me in line, go screaming to the union. Now the union comes out and they're yelling at the boss. They're yelling at Connie. They're going to shut the place down. You can't let Bakshi animate because everyone else got to animate. Now Connie, the biggest director in town, liked my animation. He also liked what I was doing. The guy was tough. He liked that out of my mind doing this. I knew that. I saw the twinkle in his eye. This is a boxer hobo. He knows what I'm doing. They got no business. So what they finally agreed to let me animate. They promoted 5 or 6 guys who jumped up and down for joy because I got them promotions. You know what I'm saying? Everything was settled and I stayed animating. And that was it. End the game. I went from inking to animation. And sometimes you got to take the bull by the horn, or Connie, you got to shake his hand. That's an immigrant son growing up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, that allowed me to do that in very quaint Norman Rockwell, New Rochelle, with Tarrytoons over the leaves forward. Everyone's so happy, like Disney, to go whistling to work. It was easy. It was no problem. That's great. You learn from the greats, and then you listen. Then you take that and put it in your think tank, and then shut everything off and start drawing and thinking what you want, hoping something comes out. That's been my way. I didn't look at animation to create an animation. My heroes were jazz musicians, painters, I taught opera, pilot, music, photographers. You saw the opening shot of Last Days, the collage. It all comes from loving photographs. That doesn't come from loving a Disney background. So what I'm saying is, photographers, great artists that aren't in your field, you should look at all the time. I made a mistake. If you're in animation, you cut off animation. But that doesn't stop you from going to the Museum of Modern Art, looking at great photography, listening to great music. That's teaching you all the time. That's feeding your artistic soul. So you don't have to copy these other guys.